Going on, guys? Week 7 recap slash week 8 preview. Sorry I missed last week. Been a very busy last couple weeks for me, but I'm just gonna be flying solo this week for I believe the first time this year. And I think it'll just go faster if it's just me this week. So I'm just gonna go right into it. Uh, I played Jason this week. Obviously, I lost. Um, Yeah, obviously, I think most of you guys know I made that big trade with Charlie, and this was the first week that our teams were affected by it. So Jonathan Taylor did have a very good week. He played in an absolute monsoon in San Francisco on Monday night and still managed to put up 18 points with a fumble. He did fumble in the first quarter, but yeah, and Gibson got me 7.6, not the best, and he still is lacking those touches within the red zone, which is definitely hurting his value. So I'm hoping that maybe he can just get one of those long touchdowns, break one open. I don't know. You know, it is what it is. And Herbert was on a bye. But other than that, Jacobs was hurt with a chest injury. I think he'll be okay, though. They have a bye next week. So hopefully he'll be back the week after that. My wide receiver two situation, not good. Jamison Crowder should not really be starting in fantasy lineups, but I did have Cole Beasley on a bye. Even he's not the best option either, but uh, it is what it is. Mike Evans did have a huge week though with Brown and Gronk out, so that was good. Jason's team. Jason got solid production out of pretty much all of his players. I'm a little bit pissed about DK Metcalf though. I mean, how many catches did he have yesterday? Two. Yeah, he had two, and one was for 85 yards and a touchdown. So he really didn't have a great game by any stretch, but 185-yard touchdown gave him the win. So Zach Ertz on his new first game in Arizona had a very good week. Michael Carter actually just picked up a ton of garbage time points for the Jets. For those of you that were lucky enough not to watch the Jets game this weekend, they got absolutely blown out. But Michael Carter was actually a good threat in the passing game. He had 8 receptions. It seemed like every play they were just dumping it down to him. And now it's Zach Wilson out, and whoever they decide is going to start next week, if it's Mike White or Joe Flacco, maybe Michael Carter should probably be getting a lot more touches. So Jason definitely is in a good spot with him. And Javante Williams actually, 17 points with only 4 carries is really solid because he had a receiving touchdown and 6 receptions. So I don't know how maintainable that is, especially with Melvin Gordon still there, but he doesn't really need it to be because he has Zeke coming back and Kenyon Drake, who I know I've made fun of him before, but he had 17 points with Jacobs going out, and Jacobs seems to get a new injury every week. So, also on a side note, Jason did decide to pick up Deshaun Watson amid the rumors that he might get traded soon. So, there's my matchup with Jason. Jason moves up to 3-4. I fall to 3-4. He is technically, I'm sorry, we're not in the same division. So, next matchup was Dean against Adam. I know Dean posted that little picture after he won. This was a really close matchup, obviously. Dean still manages to pull out wins with J.D. McKissick as his one of his starting running backs, which is unbelievable. The lineup that he put out this week just should never win a game, but Kyle Pitts was like, "Don't worry, I got this." And Dearness Johnson also said that. Other than that, like Lamar, 23 points, like, yeah, it's a good week, but like no one else in his team really did anything so special. He got 21 points out of his kicker and defense, was just definitely a big help. AJ Green, I'm not the biggest fan of, but he's been, somewhat okay as like a low level flex option. But if Kyle Pitts is going to play like this, then Dean's team is definitely going to take a big jump up because, he has Nick Chubb coming back next week. He's got Cooper and Diggs both coming back next week, and Dawson Knox, who apparently is like a very viable option. So Dean's team definitely on the rise. Adam's team, I think most of you guys know, have been a very big proponent of this team for most of the year. And it really did look like he was going to win this one, but unfortunately he didn't. He has McCaffrey out. And who knows when he's coming back. And he had Robinson on a bye. So he had to throw out. I mean, he still had two okay options to start with Gordon and Henderson, but Henderson just didn't have the best week. Um, DJ Moore, he's been very, very consistent this year as opposed to last year, of course, when I had him. And then, but he's had a pretty good year. He had a not great last two games, but 13 is, okay. Marquise Brown is just, he's been kind of a touchdown machine lately. I feel like he's just getting one every week. So definitely been a good sign after him dropping like 3 touchdowns a couple weeks ago. And AJ Brown had one of his best games, definitely his best game of the season. And, which was good for me because I picked him in my pick'ems, even though I lost all of them. But eight receptions, 133 yards and a touchdown and a blowout surprise win against the Chiefs. So that was definitely positive for Adam, even with Mark Andrews not having the best week. Rodgers had one of his better weeks, actually. And the Cardinals defense actually turning out to be a very solid option in most weeks. I have them in my other league. So Adam unfortunately couldn't pull out the win this week for him. Just unfortunate he played a team that scored a little bit more than him this week. Dean moving up to 5-2. I believe he is the 3 seed in the playoffs right now. And Adam falling to 3-4. Definitely not what your record, definitely one of the situations where you're a little bit better than your record might perceive. But, if McCaffrey's out for an extended period of time, who knows? James beat the absolute garbage out of Kareem Hunt kicks cunts this week, proving all of us wrong, as we always like to make fun of James for being 6-1, but not really having great weeks. Had the most points in the league this week. And looking at his numbers, you wouldn't really think that because it doesn't seem like he has 140 points at first glance when you look at this. But, when you have 34 out of Jamar Chase, who coming out of the draft, I really did think he was going to be an elite player, but I didn't think he would be this good this fast. And I mean, he was just unbelievable against Baltimore. So, yeah, I mean, 34 points is crazy. Foster Moreau, who I don't know if he picked him up or he had him rostered already in place of Darren Waller. I mean, I guess Derek Carr just really likes his tight ends no matter who it is. And Ridley and Sutton are a good duo. They didn't have their best week, but I mean, that's pretty much their floor, 12-11, which is really solid. Once you got Saquon, and Godwin, I'm sorry, had 25 on the bench also, again, with Gronk and Antonio Brown out this week. So him and Evans both went crazy in that disgusting victory over the Bears. So 25 points again on his bench. I really would think that, James keeps saying he'd like to trade a receiver, but he keeps declining all of the offers. I'm not saying they're the best offers, but, if you really want to trade one of these receivers, I would suggest maybe countering an offer every now and then. But yeah, Saquon, not really sure when he's going to come back, but when he does, obviously it's going to give him a huge boost. So he won't have to play Nyheim Hines anymore. But obviously it doesn't seem to matter because his receivers are so good. And Tom Brady, it's Tom Brady. There's nothing else to say. Jeff's team, I don't even have anything to say. They were just bad. I mean, he had Kareem Hunt out, Mike Williams out, David Montgomery out, Gallup out, and Galladay out. So, I mean, it's going to be kind of hard to win like that. But, yeah, not even going to say anything else. AJ. I'm sorry. And, yeah, Jeff moves to 4-3. James moves to 6-1. First seed in the league. Jeff, I believe, is in the playoffs as of right now. AJ versus Sam. Again, AJ was the lowest score of the week, playing the Jets defense against New England. Being as a Jets fan, I could tell you that was one of the worst decisions I could have imagined, especially with CJ Mosley out. I'm not really sure what AJ was seeing in that, but yeah. So he had to play guys like Devonta Freeman, Mecole Hardman, and Jalen Reagor this week. Definitely a rough week for AJ. And Allen Robinson has been maybe the biggest disappointment of any player this year, because I don't think he's broken 12 once. He broke 10 only once, and it was barely. So it wasn't a bad pick. I don't blame you for the pick. I don't think anyone would have expected him to be this bad, but that's fantasy. But he has Allen, both Allens on the bench, and Dalvin Cook. So if he gets those guys, when he gets those guys back, he could definitely make some noise. I wouldn't say that he's going to be a real contender, but obviously having 3 stars like that on buys is going to hurt you. Sam had a resurgent week. Joe Burrow had one of his best games, I would say, as a pro against Baltimore, and a big surprise win. Mixon did not have the best week, but still okay with 12. Swift, I had my doubts about him coming into the year, but he is the 2nd position ranked running back right now. He hasn't really missed a beat. So props to Sam on that pick. That I'll admit that I was wrong on him. Devontae Adams is going to do Devontae things. I'm not the biggest fan of Julio, and he hasn't really performed too well. But yeah, Sam didn't really. I mean, at 10, he'll on his bench with 19. But other than that, he'll get some guys back next week with Claypool and Marvin Jones. So Sam definitely had a good week without one of his better players in Chase Claypool. So good job on Sam. Moves up to 3-4. AJ falls to 3-4. And we will move on to the Wild Bill versus Yoba Goya. Taste will destroy you. Jake actually texted me yesterday before this game was final, and he was like, I just need to catch a break. And as you guys can see, it did not happen once again. Jake, I really do feel bad for you. You've been one of the highest scorers almost every week. I'm pretty sure you're the number 1 team in points for the season, and you're 2-5. That's just very unfortunate. I do feel bad for you, but let's get into this one. Matt started Jameis Winston this week at Seattle, which you would think would be a solid play, but 17 isn't bad, but you would definitely hope for a little bit more. Matt's team is getting carried pretty hard by Cooper Kupp. He's almost at 1,000 yards in week 7, which is unprecedented. He's on pace. I actually saw today he's on pace to have the most fantasy points by a receiver of all time in a season. So, I mean, he's a must start every week, and that's just, 37 points is ridiculous. And his other receivers, I mean, it's not like DeAndre Hopkins, you would think would be the number 1 on this team, and he's still performing like a number 1, and he's not even close to Cooper Kupp. And Matt has the duo of rookies between Devonta Smith and Jalen Waddle, and they're both performing pretty well, actually, for rookies, so that's good for him. He had Dak Prescott and Adam Thielen on a bye this week and still put up 136 points. Again, I mean, just Matt's receivers are pretty insane. His running backs are usually a little bit better too. So Matt's team definitely one to look out for. Jake, Pat Mahomes has not looked like Pat Mahomes this year. I don't really know what's wrong with their offense right now. Maybe it's because my boy CEH isn't out there, but 7 points from Pat Mahomes. I wouldn't even imagine he's ever come close to that before. So Cordero Patterson at least is balancing it out a little bit because no one expected him to be good, and he's been very consistent for you. Jake's receivers, 25 and 20. Pittman took a big step up this year from last year's rookie year. He's actually really coming into his own, so that's good for Jake. McLaurin, definitely, I had my doubts about him coming into the year, but he's really proved me wrong. Derrick Henry obviously is doing, he didn't even have his best week, and he still had 16 points. And Damian Harris, I'm pretty sure the Patriots had 3 running backs in this game of over 15 points, which is more a testament to how bad the Jets looked in this game. But yeah, Damian Harris was obviously the ringleader of them with 25. I mean, it felt like every single play he was able to just run for 20 yards right up the middle. So yeah, Jake has a really good week, just can't unfortunately get one more point or 2 more to beat Matt. So Jake falls to 2-5, hoping he can just catch a break next week, and Matt goes to 5-2. And the last matchup is Danny against the certified garbage cans, which is Charlie, our reigning champion, is the lowest seed in the league. Danny definitely did not have his best week. Outside of Alvin Kamara, no one really on his team had a good week. I mean, I guess you could say Jalen Hurts had a good week with 23, but by his standards, it's not really anything too special. Chuba Hubbard, um, you know, he just had to play him in place of Eckler, so I guess it's not. But he might have to play him at his flex in the future, unless he wants to go with like James Conner or Antonio Brown if he doesn't want to play Bateman. So he's got some options, but I wouldn't think that Chuba Hubbard would be in his plans to start on a consistent basis. And Darrell Williams kind of let us all down this week. So Bateman, Danny started him for the first time. I was stashing him on my IR for a little bit, and I had to drop him because of other injuries. But he had 11 points this week, which was solid. Woods had 15, which was solid. And Falk had 13. But like I said, Danny kind of got carried a lot by Alvin Kamara this week, who Charlie has deemed that should count as a receiver instead of a running back. But all I got to say is that's why you draft him high. So yeah, Danny put up 126, not his best week, but not, the worst. It was obviously enough to win. Charlie put up 115 this week behind Mike Gesicki, who again I dropped, and he, he's having a really good year since I dropped him. Charlie's running back duo actually had like 30 points this week, which going into the year, if you told me Elijah Mitchell and Devontae Booker would be starting running backs, I really wouldn't think they would be anything. But I mean, 30 points is not bad. Jacoby Myers, like Charlie said, the Patriots were able to put up 54 points, and Jacoby Myers still was not able to get into the end zone. I believe he had one. He got in, and it was called back on a penalty again. So that's kind of heartbreaking for Charlie. But he also started Tua this week, which I definitely wouldn't have supported, but he had 26 points. So obviously Charlie saw something that I didn't. Yeah, I mean, next week he gets Jefferson and Najee back. So his team, unfortunately, is at 1-6, so it's going to be really tough for him to turn it around. But, he could definitely play spoiler for a lot of teams. So, yeah, that's that. We'll just quickly do the power rankings. So at number 12, we have AJ. At number 11, we have Charlie. At 10 is me. 9 is Sam. 8 is Jeff. 7 is Jake. 6 is Jason. 5 is Danny. 4 is Adam. 3 is Dean. 2 is Matt. And 1 is James. So that's it for week 7 recap. And I will see you guys next week, hopefully.